Welcome to Movie Recall. In today's video, we will be going through the 2010 movie Blue Valentine. It's time to recall. Let's get started, turn on subtitles, and spoilers ahead. The film opens with a little girl, Frankie, searching for her missing dog, Megan. She walks inside to find her daddy, who is sleeping on a chair in the living room after the dog does not return. She wakes him up and leads him outdoors to look for Megan the dog. They look for her for a few minutes. You can see that they have a great relationship and Frankie adores her father. They walk inside after a few minutes to wake up Cindy, and they climb on her bed in what appears to be a wonderful family moment. Cindy appears a little irritable and insists on sleeping for a while longer. They get her up and start eating breakfast. Cindy is the strict parent, whilst Dean is the playful one. Cindy tries to get Frankie to eat her breakfast, but Frankie refuses until Dean takes the amusing technique of eating on the table like a leopard. Cindy, upset, removes Frankie from the room and prepares her for school. Cindy and Frankie are in the car when Dean pulls out Frankie's rucksack and instructs Cindy to secure her seatbelt, which she does irritably. Dean works as a house painter, while Cindy works as a nurse in a prenatal private practice. Her boss inquires whether she has decided to relocate with her practice to another city. She mentions that she hasn't had the time to discuss it with her family yet, and her employer appears disappointed but instructs her to notify him by Monday. She goes to Frankie's school after her shift to see an assembly. Along the way, she comes across Megan, who is dead on the side of the road. When she comes to Frankie's assembly, she sits next to Dean, who immediately notices something is wrong. She begins to cry after saying she found Megan. Dean is irritated and wonders how many times he needs to remind her to close the dog gate until she gets it. After the assembly, they take Frankie to Cindy's father's house for a sleepover. When her father asks whether something is wrong, she remains silent. Dean and Cindy kiss Frankie goodbye and head home. They bury Megan when they arrive, and Cindy begins clearing the house as Dean watches home movies of Frankie and Megan. Dean then arranges for them to spend the night together at a low-cost hotel. Cindy says she is on call tomorrow and won't be able to go for the evening. Dean is adamant about their spending the night together, so she gives up and they leave. Cindy bumps into an old boyfriend called Bobby while stopping for gas and drinking. He inquires as to whether she is married and whether she has been loyal to him. Cindy says yes and walks away. Dean wonders what took her so long in the car. She claims he will never guess who she met. Dean is shocked when she confesses it was Bobby. Cindy attempts to calm Dean down by lying and stating Bobby is overweight and unattractive, but it doesn't work. In a flashback, it is unveiled that Cindy first met Dean 6 or 7 years ago. He's a charming slacker looking for work with a moving firm. He jokes with his coworkers about love and passion, claiming that males are more romantic than women. Women fantasize about meeting Prince Charming but settle for a man who is safe and has a nice career. Men just know by looking at ladies that they are the one, Dean explains. He compares it to listening to music, saying that sometimes you hear a song and you just have to dance to it. Dean and his crew once assisted with the transfer of an elderly gentleman to a nursing facility. Dean's supervisor tells him that he doesn't have much time to unpack the goods in the room and to hurry up. Dean discovers relics of an extraordinary life as he digs through the boxes. He unpacks everything and decorates the room with ancient matchboxes, the man's naval uniform, and photographs from his history. When the old man enters the room, Dean assists him, places him in a rocking rocker, and shows him the job he has completed. The elderly gentleman appears to be overwhelmed, but he appreciates what Dean has done for him. Dean then goes to collect his portion of the paycheck that his employer has placed on a table for him, but before he departs, he peeks out the door and notices something. In another flashback, we get to know that Dean first met Cindy 6 or 7 years ago. She is in a wheelchair navigating a college campus. She visits the University Athletic Center to observe some wrestlers. Bobby is one of those who glance up and walks out to see her. He kisses her and asks why she's in a wheelchair, to which she replies that she's checking out how accessible the university is for paraplegics. He wonders why she does things like this all the time, labels her a weirdo, and continues to kiss her. She steps back and says she'll see him later. Bobby subsequently has intercourse with Cindy from behind, and he is violent with her. She attempts to flee for a moment, but he pursues her even harder. Finally, she flees to the toilet, where she struggles to extract a broken condom from herself. Cindy is seen caring for her elderly grandma a few days later. Cindy returns after a walk to a nursing home and puts her into a room. She is about to shut the door when she notices Dean taking his share of the money from the old man across the hall in a neighbor's room. Dean notices her spying on him and comes out to her room, insisting that he did not steal the money. Cindy nods, but she is skeptical. Dean explains that was his day's pay and asks her about her name and what she plans to do later that night. He writes his name on the back of his business card and urges her to give him a chance when she doesn't respond. She grins, accepts the card, and shuts the door. At present, Cindy and Dean get to the hotel and find themselves in a futuristic room with a spinning bed. Cindy enters the shower. Dean joins her and tries to take her down. They continue bathing in solitude as she draws away. Later, during dinner, Cindy questions Dean about why he never takes the initiative with work. He is irritated that she is dissatisfied with where he is and that working as a house painter allows him to accomplish what he enjoys most, which is being a husband and father. She drops the subject and they complete their meal. In a flashback, Dean begins to lose hope after a month of not hearing from Cindy. One day, while cleaning on a moving truck, he discovers a locket that belonged to an elderly guy at the nursing facility. That provides him an excuse to return home and perhaps see Cindy. When he arrives at the residence, the old man's room has been cleaned and his blankets have been folded on the bed. Dean, disappointed that the elderly guy has died, walks into Cindy's room and inquires about the girl who was in her room with her a while back. Cindy's grandmother introduces her as Cindy, her granddaughter. Dean departs to catch the bus home. He sees Cindy on the bus and goes to sit with her. The two converse, laugh, and get along fairly well. Their bus ride turns into an unplanned date in which he sings for her and she tap dances. You can tell they're already in love. In the present day, Dean and Cindy are both getting drunk in their hotel room and he tries to make love to her as she pretends to fall asleep. He walks away frustrated. She follows him and they have a good time on the floor. He invites her to have a kid with him, but she stops him and makes him play rape her. He claims to love her and he would never hurt her. She becomes enraged, storms out, and locks the bedroom door so he cannot follow her. He pounds on the door telling her that he will never strike or treat her like that he loves her, and that it isn't fair for her to treat him this way after everything he has done for her. He only wants to have a child with her. In another flashback, Cindy is seen in a classroom while Bobby gathers the class papers. He comes to a halt before her desk and she ignores him. He snatches her paper and walks away enraged. She goes to a restroom after class and takes a pregnancy test. Her expression indicates that she is happy. She meets Dean after work and goes for a walk. They arrive at a bridge, and Dean threatens to leap over it after bugging her the entire way about what it is that is upsetting her. Cindy won't tell him what's wrong until he's over the edge and about to leap. When he learns of her pregnancy, he asks if it's his, to which she replies that it's unlikely. Angry, he begins smashing the bridge's barrier, and she begins to walk away, but he pursues her and asks what she means to do, and she replies nothing. Dean says he loves her and will be there for her no matter what she decides. The film begins with Cindy answering questions at an abortion clinic. She then enters a room to have an abortion, and when the doctor is about to begin the process, Cindy stops him, stating that she cannot go through with it and that she has to see her friend. Dean follows her out of the clinic. We can't hear what they're saying, but he mouths, "I love you." She nods, and he hugs her while she cries. Cindy returns home, lies down on her bed, and listens to her missed messages. They're from Bobby, who says he knows she's pregnant, that the kid is his, and that if she doesn't call and take him back, he'll beat Dean to a pulp. Cindy tries to call Dean at work, but Bobby and two of his wrestling cronies catch Dean and severely beat him. Dean afterwards travels to meet Cindy's parents. Cindy's father asks if he graduated high school, to which he responds that he did not, also says that he loves Cindy and will do whatever it takes to support her. Cindy's mother claims that Cindy is going to be a doctor, and Dean says he admires her and considers her to be the smartest person he knows. He expresses a desire to have her as his or his children's doctor someday. Cindy and Dean play about in her room after supper. Dean says that he chose a song for them before things become serious. He acts it out and asks her to marry him. She accepts. Present day, Cindy's phone rings the next day in the hotel, and her boss summons her to work. She attempts to escape, but she is their final hope. She puts on her clothes and writes Dean a message explaining where she's gone and that he will have to catch the bus home. Dean wakes up upset that Cindy left him there like a drunk and walks to her workplace. Cindy's boss inquires once more if she's considered transferring with him. She claims that it has only been one day and that she thought she had until Monday to make a decision. Her boss suggests he can get her an apartment where she can live during the week and return home on weekends. Perhaps they might even have supper together in the evenings, he continues. Cindy is taken aback and tells him that she is married and that she thought he wanted to bring her along because she is competent in her profession. Her supervisor becomes agitated and enters to see a patient. On the other hand, Dean arrives at the hospital, and the nurse at the welcome desk makes a cruel remark about his having to be Dean, despite the fact that he is only there to see his wife. The nurse phones Cindy, who is furious that he came to see her at work. A co-worker nurse asks Cindy if she is okay and urges her not to let Dean brainwash her. They get to Cindy's office, and Dean loses it because she has been talking about them at work and leaving him at the hotel, and their argument turns into shouting. Cindy's employer and a co-worker arrive to assist her, but Dean orders them to leave or he would attack her boss. Dean strikes the boss when he refuses to go. When the boss returns to his feet, he dismisses Cindy and orders both of them to leave his office immediately. Cindy is furious with Dean and cries that she can't take this anymore and that she wants a divorce. Dean, enraged, tosses his wedding band into the bushes. A moment later, he calms down and starts to look for it. Cindy joins him in his quest for his ring, which they do quietly. The film goes back and forth from their quarrel in her office to their wedding day at the Justice of the Peace office. Cindy is around 6 or 7 months pregnant, and Dean compliments her on her beauty. She asks if he's scared, and he replies he's worried they won't be able to get in quickly enough and that Cindy will change her mind. She chuckles and kisses him to reassure him of her decision. We watch a modest ceremony that meant a lot to both of them as they cry while exchanging vows and kissing as man and wife. Cindy and Dean arrive at her father's house to pick up Frankie, who is overjoyed to see both of them. Cindy passes Frankie over to Dean and enters. Dean turns Frankie over to her grandfather, walks inside, and locks the door so no one can follow them in. Cindy declares her intention to divorce in her father's kitchen. Dean begs her to reconsider, saying that she is being selfish and isn't thinking about Frankie, and that even if she isn't his daughter, he still loves her like one and will do whatever she wants. He asks Cindy to tell him what to do, and he agrees to do whatever she wants in order to be with them. Cindy says she is thinking about Frankie and that she has fallen out of love with Dean and that she can no longer pretend. They will never alter to meet the requirements of the other person, and she just needs her space. Dean, understanding this is it, walks away. Frankie runs after Dean, crying out for her father. When Dean turns to her and tells her she must return to her mother, Frankie just wraps her arms around his neck. As Cindy approaches, Dean scoops her up and gives her a big hug. Dean returns Frankie to Cindy and walks away, while Frankie cries out, "Daddy, Daddy!" Cindy turns to return to her father's house, leaving Dean to walk away and out of her and Frankie's lives for good. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.